All right, everyone, we're back here in the onsen. I'm your host, Mazo, with co-host Sis,
Right.
co-host Nexus,
What?
finally, and special guest NVT.
Hey, what was that?
That was awful. All right, well, it's been another long break because I just can't get my shit together. But since we're here and all together again, today's topic is gal metal. So how do you guys feel about gal metal? Do you think it's just like the current fad? Like, it seems like it's been going for a while. Do you think it's just, you know, the baby metal hype never died and it's long past due? I mean, what's your feeling on it? I want to throw this one at you, NBT. You go first.
That's a good question. I haven't thought of it like that deeply yet, but my perspective, I feel like there are a few bands or like idol groups that can really pull it off. One of the examples that we all know about is baby metal. They're doing really good, and I mean they're traveling worldwide, and basically half of the world has already accepted them. So we see new bands that are kind of like similar to them popping up from Japan. Their success haven't been as successful, so to say, as baby metal. I mean, the formula isn't a sure win, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Okay, so you're of the opinion that, you know, it works for baby metal, but no one else?
People need to know how to execute it. I think baby metal had the momentum of being one of the ones that stuck out, kind of grabbed all of the attention. They're unique, of course, but metal and idol has kind of been together for a really long time, actually, especially in the underground scene. But it's just that it hasn't popped up to the maybe like mainstream kind of audience. So I think they had that momentum to basically bring all of the attention to them and then make that into a thing that they could actually win over the audience.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing that you bring up, that like idols and metal have kind of intersected for a long time. I mean, recently I have my own weird stuff going on with all that, but when you say that, what exactly do you mean? Because have there been a lot of metal idols in the past, and it was just that somehow baby metal broke the mold and like became front and center for some reason?
Yeah, I would think that. I don't have like a specific group to use as an example, so I'm basically speaking out of my ass right now.
As you do.
Yeah, as I do. But basically, if we look at some other idol group that recently done music, who are active or not, but like we have, for example, like Hanabi, like they're kind of like a core example of a band that actually pulls it off, like having this metal with I think they're like 4 girls who is performing. I mean, it's kind of like a shock factor that you have 4 girls performing like metal in a really aggressive way, but
they're
still
so
looking kind of like you.
They're really good.
And the thing is that they compose their own music, which is for me one of like biggest thing, because compared to baby metal, well, I love the compositions that baby metal have, and they're done by a lot of like the doujin composers or producers that I'm really a fan of. The biggest difference with Hanabi is that they compose their own music, and it's the same thing with like Trident, for example. That's also like I would say like they produce kind of like metal kind of music, but it's still like maybe a bit of pop as well into that, and that's the same thing with Hanabi.
Yeah, it's really bizarre because like you mentioned Trident. I think it was Trident. If not, it was one of the other ones that's kind of bigger right now. My dad was asking me about them because like he's mostly into death metal and stuff, but like, you know, he's old, so he likes you know, all the old stuff. He likes his Iron Maiden. He likes Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest. He likes all that stuff, and like I'm pretty sure it's Trident. If not, I don't remember who it was, but they did like a cover of an Iron Maiden song, and like it got pretty big on YouTube in the metal scene. And my dad was like, "Have you heard of this band?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, where you been?" But it's interesting how, like, you know, in some ways, like, for me with baby metal, it feels like once they got enough notoriety on their own, based off their own talent and stuff, but then it was all the collaborators and stuff that came in out of nowhere and were like, yeah, baby metal's cool, like, people should listen to metal. And like what's his name, Rob Halford from Judas Priest, he collaborated with them, and then that made them a hell of a lot more popular and accepted. And these other bands don't really have that chance, but like the second they pay homage to the oldies, all of a sudden they're accepted and they explode.
Interesting, like in a way you can dance by doing covers, and like arguably it's a free way to get more fans. And I don't know like all the legal stuff behind making covers, but on YouTube, like I guess you wouldn't be making money from that though, because the artist that you cover probably gets the cut or something like that. But the interesting part is that baby metal actually, they collaborated with artists basically from the start that they existed. For example, one of the earlier singles that they released was a collaboration with Kiba of Akiba. So that's a kind of like a underground band that was big in the Akihabara scene. So I mean, that's essentially like the doujin scene, more or less. And Kiba of Akiba was known in the scene that they were targeting. And basically, what baby metal has done is that they target like one audience at a time. So like basically the Akihabara kind of scene was their main target audience back then. I mean, you know, like with the idols and stuff. Yeah. Then they expanded. Then they collaborated with doujin artists, like other kind of doujin artists. Then basically they grew out of that shell and into the world, and now you have the collaboration with like worldwide artists. I don't know, like Sabaton or like Polyphila.
I mean, I don't know if it happened yet. I don't know if it happened yet, but they even did something or are going to do something with Death Clock, the fictional band from Metalocalypse. Really? That isn't really fictional. Yeah, Aphenia was like super excited about it and then couldn't get tickets, and that was a little sad. But but that's the thing, like with,
Bring Me the Horizon are pretty big right now. With
Kingslayer. Kingslayer, yeah. Okay. And one of the interesting part I want to get to is that one of the guitarists that is in Kiba of Akiba, well, he joined after the collaboration that Baby Metal had. He's actually like the producer for Broken by the Scream, which is also an idol group that does kind of like similar things to Baby Metal.
Yeah, they're fun.
So, yeah, Broken by the Scream is really good. It's kind of like all interconnected some way, like the scene. So I kind of like that.
In some ways, yeah, especially when you look at like specifically Baby Metal and the stuff going on around them. There's a lot of incest going on. But before we just keep droning on. Before
no, I wasn't gonna comment on that.
Kinda steered that somewhere else, huh?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wait, it's big? It's actually a thing?
You can say it. No. I don't mean like literal incest. I mean the metaphorical incest of like he's in that band and that band and he knows this guy who's in this band and this band, and like everybody's dipping their pen in all of the different companies' ink, you know? Like it's a big
normal in the field.
What the hell was this speaking of? Like what were you drifting off?
Well,
incest.
It's just the way it
is. Listen, I think I tend to call it crossbreeding, so like you're not that off with incest.
Okay, I mean we could just call it wincest if you want, but
surely. I mean it's pretty normal in the genre as a whole. I keep saying that all JROCK bands are just endless permutation of the same members from different JROCK bands, and they just keep shuffling. So
until you know one of them decides to go farm avocados or something.
Sure.
Oh man, why do you bring back old scars?
Because it was a major loss to the community and the whole movement, man. It was horrible.
Oh, the community got avocados at least.
we
Who
have
decided to
enough
go farm avocados specifically?
Natsuki from
Oz,
Oz.
Yeah, Natsuki.
Huh.
I'm sad you didn't know his
How's
name.
avocados doing?
He was on NHK.
Nice.
That was like 10 years ago.
Look, man,
Oh.
it felt like yesterday for me. I still listen to them regularly. They even played in Texas. But before we just continue on and on with baby metal, I want to get some other opinions. So, like Sis, I really don't know what your view on this whole thing is, because like as it's been getting more popular, myself, I've been getting a little bit more into it. Like NBT mentioned Hanabiya a few times. And I've been listening to them a heck of a lot more recently, especially after Osaki ni Shitsure Shimasu, or whatever the song is called. My Japanese is terrible. But, yeah, I even bought their debut album, their first self-published album. I went and bought that, and it's great. Like, I really like the majority of the stuff that I'm listening to from them. So, Sis, I've never heard you mention any kind of gal metal groups other than, like when there's a baby metal thing, because that's just easy to comment on. Not saying that you don't know what's up and you're just like, oh, it's easy to talk about, so I'll talk about it. But I just really don't know where you're coming from with it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's fine.
You feel insulted?
Basically, my history basically goes not even as far as I could passcode. Like I know passcode. I got into them for like a small bit, and I was like, I like what I'm hearing. But I also went to a festival in the UK. Festival? Sorry, not a festival. Like an event in a live event in the UK that I can't remember the name, but there was a lot of female fronted metal bands. So I got to see, I think it was 2 days, but I got to see Mardellas. I know Fake Gear were playing, Ankimo.
That was Metal Matsuri, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Metal Matsuri in the UK. Yeah, it definitely. There's definitely been an increase in popularity over the last few years. I would want to say last decade or so, and that I wouldn't say that it's just because of like baby metal. Also like I know it's gal metal, but like there's also bands like Bandmade, who are I want to say are pretty big, and
they started their
like,
activity almost like 10 years ago.
Yeah. There you go, see? And then a name I always see is Necro Nomido, who come to the UK every so often. They're like a gothic idol band that have like...
Oh yeah, I always forget about them. They're very black metal.
Yeah. And yeah, so I mean, especially I would say in the UK, there's definitely a dedicated fan base of fans who like female fronted or mainly female bands of this kind of like metal, like idol, whatever. Yeah, I think it can only grow stronger, honestly. I think obviously it's easy to say because of the popularity of baby metal that there's much more visibility. That's great, but I think it's always been a thing, just on like like I think what MBT said, like it's always been a thing, but it's on an underground scale. I would say there's a lot more female fronted bands right now than there was in the past, but not obviously not as much as like male fronted bands or bands with male members in it. Yeah, I just think it can only get stronger and stronger, really, and that fan base can only get bigger and bigger. I don't know if we'll have another baby metal. I think it would be good to have like another massive big deal. Yeah, that's how I think about it, really.
Well, see, the reason I bring it up is because in my personal experience here recently, and like, the algorithm trying to feed me stuff, I feel like it's more in your face than it has been in the past. Even with random people I meet from time to time, they know or they tell me they prefer female fronted bands, and I don't know when that happened. It feels like overnight, all of a sudden everybody's like, Yeah, I just like female-fronted bands now. Like that's the most
It's the
important
zombie
thing
virus.
for me. Like, yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know when it became that became an important thing for the band or music you like. It used to just be what's good is good, and like every now and then it's like, oh, they happen to have a female singer. That's interesting, but you know they're good. But now I'm finding a lot more people who are like, I specifically seek out female-fronted groups. And then the other thing is, like, with Vocaloid tech getting better, what was it? Yuyo Yupe put out Sick recently, and
Oh, that's a sick album.
it's really good. Like, it took me a second to be like, is this really a Vocaloid? Like, it there's so many things that they're able to do that sound so natural.
No, it's not that natural.
There are some things that sound really natural. Like, I knew it was a Vocaloid, but sometimes I was like, wow, this is surprising. Like, the screams don't sound that natural, but some of the other things in the singing sound a whole lot more natural than, like, no hate on Miku, though I don't really care for Miku, than Miku. Like, there are certain ways that it just sounds better.
And BT's Googling the route to your house right now as you're speaking.
No, I mean,
Send location.
Vocaloid. I mean, Vocaloid has its limitations in the sense that they're limited by like the Vocaloid technology that Yamaha has developed. So it's not like the company that created Hatsune Miku that kind of like dictates exactly how the technology should work.
Well, yes, that's 100% true. But I wonder if they're kind of, you know, with the success of people like Utsupi and Yuyo Yupe, if they're more open to metal now.
So Utsupi actually has a idol group that he produces, and I can't pronounce the name because it spells like Z S A S Z, like C if you wanna say it like in America. Yeah, so it's like
thank you. All right, Sis knows exactly how to say it. I'm glad.
Zaz. You have to say that. Zaz. But that's a idol group that Utsupi is producing, and they're doing like metal, and they're also covering Utsupi's music. So it's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there you have it. Like you have like real singers who's doing Utsupi's music.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Of course, that's fantastic. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. There's just I don't know if it's an uneasy feeling, what it is, but like I just can't shake it. It always feels like, you know, in this scene of JROCK music, Japanese rock, like it felt like Visual-kei was like the thing, you know, that set Japanese rock apart. And then, you know, things always change. Visual-kei, like, started to die, but Visual-kei will never really die, you know, kind of like metal and grunge and all that stuff. Like, there's always, like, this constant battle between everything.
And even emo is still around.
Yeah, emo's still around. There was just, like, a big Tokyo emo night thing not that long ago, probably a while ago. I have a terrible concept of time. But, like, it feels like there's always something trying to push to the top. And I don't know why right now it seems like it's gal metal. But I just wanted to kind of get everyone else's opinion on it and see where everyone's coming from. Because, like, some of it, I feel like, gets a whole lot of undeserved attention also. Because they're just like, oh, it's a female-fronted band. Look at it. It's so interesting. It's so different. It's like, we have this at home already. We don't need to buy a new one. But
I don't want to call you out, but you have an example? I'm just curious. Of like a overhyped gal metal band or group.
Just the concept in general at this point.
Wait, what was that, Nexus?
Listen, I'm gonna be a hater, but I really do feel like a lot of the popularity, at least at the start, stemmed from the gimmick itself and nothing else.
Yeah,
like, it's little girls and they do metal. That's so new.
Okay, yeah, I did think about this, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I know we've been tiptoeing around it, but like,
yeah, I don't know if I can say it's a gimmick because these are people who are they are performing these songs, you know, they are going out there to, you know, it's
No,
it's
I think the gimmick is that like in the past when we listened to like gal metal, like it has the members playing the music or like the group like let's say in the doujin scene, all the people produce their own music themselves. But now when you have like these like more well established one, you're not actually playing or
It's
composing
like
the music.
it's not a metal band. It's an idol band with like a metal paint on top of
They're
it.
paid
or
actors, damn it.
or metal influence, right? Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that, and I was like,
It's a psyop.
yeah. I mean, obviously, it depends on like
man.
the
It's
band.
conspiracy cover up the moon.
That just for the record, I have no issue with this. Like I'm just saying,
I don't
Yeah.
have an issue with
No,
with it
neither do
either.
I.
Like, you know, if the performers themselves aren't huge metalheads or whatever, but they're very good at what they do, that's great. They're still doing something for the scene, even if like they really don't care that much. They just want a paycheck. But the other thing I was kind of getting at is, you asked me, do I have an example? Personally, I don't think they're bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just think they don't get they don't deserve the hype they get. I feel like it is because of the gimmick. It always has been. There are good songs here and there, but I'm talking about baby metal. I just don't think they're so groundbreaking the way people make it seem like they are, and the way that everybody wants to push that way.
yeah, as I said, that's kind of what we were tiptoeing on, and what I mentioned in the beginning that we, as you said, we already have this at home.
Yeah,
That kind
I
of
mean,
thing.
I've never disliked them. I just don't understand the massive hype, and I understand why some of the other bands are able to ride on their coattails in a sense, and I'm truly grateful for that because there are some amazing acts out there, as we mentioned, Hanabiya. Trident does interesting stuff. I'm not super into them, but there are other groups that get some notoriety because woman singer. Oh, I know about woman singer, baby metal, and it's like, yeah, they exist, but like it's not the same thing. Like a lot of times, like people get compared to them that are nothing like them. It's just because the guitars are distorted and the vocals are a little bit angry. All of a sudden, they are the face of metal if there is a woman involved.
Well,
It's an
in this
interesting
case, it's
case
more like
study.
not just the front like person, but like it's kind of like the whole package itself. In this case, with like Hanabi and also like metal. I mean, all of the members. Well, if you don't like count the backup bands, are girls. So I think the whole package itself.
counts the
kinda
backup
lends
bands?
itself.
Oh, okay. Just specifically because I looked it up and I was gonna talk about it. Is that
Yeah.
I feel like at the start the gimmick was more specifically for baby metal. The gimmick was more of a, hey, these are little girls doing metal. But as I looked it up, I actually learned that they don't like same as some Japanese idol girl bands, they don't actually intentionally rotate the members once they age out. The current baby metal members are like in their 20s, which is better in my opinion, possibly, than having teenagers on stage, because I am not secretive about this. I get extremely skeeved out about like the idol culture
Oh,
being
bro, I've
aimed
got
at
some stories for
teenage girls in Japan. Don't love it.
Yeah.
Not for me. So yeah, like now it's I guess they act all cute and dress up all cute, but it is women. But yeah.
We live in a society.
Our world
Yeah.
has been changed so much.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
you guys. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Sorry, one more thing I wanted to point out before I forget about it. I've been thinking about it since the start. Is that Mazo seems to have decided that we are calling this subgenre gal metal. I don't know if that's actually its official name, because
Well,
when
no, I
I
think
tend to hear it referred to it, it tends to be called kawaii metal. And
No, but
I just
don't
wanted
think
to
that's
point
what
it
he's
out in
referring
case
to.
somebody wants to yell at us about it.
Well,
Okay,
you're
but
always
that's a
going to
good
get
point.
yelled at when it comes to calling
So
out
baby metal,
genre.
like-
probably.
Gal metal, I think he also like. I mean, you wouldn't call Trident kawaii metal,
I don't
Probably not,
know.
but Well,
Some
I
people
wouldn't,
might.
but like,
No.
what I mean is that if you say gal metal, it's more like it encompasses a even larger kind of scene than what kawaii metal does, in my opinion, at least.
And you know what's
but
interesting?
yeah,
What's interesting about Trident? They were formerly known as girls' rock band Kakume, and that's like insinuate. That's already insinuating something, and it's like, oh yeah, you basically like you put yourself into that circle. But I just want to mention that I'm just looking. Anybody could have coined this, but on Wikipedia they're calling it girls. Wow, what happened there? Damn. Okay.
Wikipedia.
Wait for it. Big reveal.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so on Wikipedia, they're calling it girls metal band boom from like 2010s to 2020s, and yeah, I guess that makes perfect sense to me.
I didn't know it was an
but-
official thing.
Yeah, like this is blowing my mind. Like I didn't know that either. Like I felt like it was a thing, but I guess I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
It wasn't just
the most
you.
reliable source, Wikipedia.
But
is
yeah,
telling
it's not
true.
the most. Yeah, it's not the most reliable. But I understand the sentiment. You know, like there was a extended period of time where it just felt like, oh yeah, and like not every like these gold metal bands were having much more exposure now, and I was seeing this because not just because they were touring, but because they were going on to like people like promote. They were getting promoted. They were signing to foreign record labels to release their music. So a whole thing.
But going back to what Nexus said about baby metal, like being actually like grown-ups who are doing idol music. In my interview with them in like probably like pre-pandemic, they actually mentioned like kind of like adapt like their music and the choreography to their age. Dance like the choreographies right now is a lot more mature and it kind of like fits, and that's why you also see kind of like in the latest album, what's it called?
Damn, is it Metal Resistance? I don't know. Is it?
No, that is not Metal
Is that the old
Resistance.
one?
So in their latest album, The Other One, it's very kind of experimental, and I think that's kind of comes with them wanting to decide on the direction, but they did call it like a spin-off as well.
Well, I mean, baby metal is the brainchild of their composer, right?
What do you mean?
Like you mentioned someone before, but I was always under the impression that baby metal is essentially like one guy is like the source of everything that happens with them. Like
Koba Metal is the producer.
yeah, so like he comes up with everything, and then I'm not saying he does every last bit, but it's like his concepts, and then they all work on it to make it a thing. But at the end of the day, it really is like his brainchild. It's his thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think he steers the direction, but like, I mean, the music itself is of course still composed by other big name composers.
Okay, yeah, like that was always the impression I had, which, you know, not to say that takes anything away from the other members and what they contribute, because, you know, a band is the sum of its parts. It's not just one person. I mean, I don't know how to put into words what I'm thinking of right now, but like
it's a product. Like it's not just a band; it's a product.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
collaborative project, I suppose. Like a movie.
yeah, exactly. Like just different people seem to get more credit than maybe they technically deserve in some ways, but that's beside the point. Anyway.
Apparently they also...
I feel like you're feeling kind of like salty about it.
No, I'm not. Again, I don't dislike them. I just really, again, I don't like that they tend to be the face of, as Wikipedia called it, that I don't even remember what it was, but I don't like that they tend to be the face of this movement, because in some ways I can agree they're kind of one of the first, maybe the first, debatably, very much debatably, but I don't like it, because I feel like it really misrepresents a lot of the other stuff going on that gets roped into that scene.
So do the other other gal metal acts, quote unquote, have the members contribute to the band more other than just being performers?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Just, yeah.
I genuinely don't really know anything other than Baby Metal and Bandmate, so...
I mean, unless we're being lied to in some of the cases where, they're like, hey, don't tell anyone this, but I'm going to write some stuff for you.
I mean, we mentioned Hanabi and also Trident, and then we also have Hagane. I mean, those bands are
bands.
Or actually, there are bands.
The way they represent themselves and the way they say their process works, as much as they talk about it or as little as they talk about it, it's no different from any other band.
It just happened to they happen to have girls members, and
so coincidental. How who could have seen this coming? But go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna start going off about target demographics.
Target demographics? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I know
what do I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Please elaborate.
No, I just. I feel like this wave is kind of whatever Sis called it before that Wikipedia called it something wave.
Band boom. Yeah.
Girls
whatever
metal
that
band boom.
The girls metal.
It's kind of
boom.
Seems to be kind of like a result of a lucky intersection in target demographics when it comes to targeting a specific subset of weeb specifically, especially overseas.
A new subset of weebs.
I don't.
What?
I don't know how to explain it. But
it's a fucking enigma, man.
I'm guessing. Okay, so let's say the average idol fan is male, maybe in that, I want to say, early 20s, teenagers to.
No.
Where? When you say average, where?
Yeah.
What do you mean to where? As in to
like geographically.
Overseas in Japan.
Oh, okay.
But
sorry.
No average fan.
Sorry. In Japan, I would.
No, sis. No.
What?
No.
What?
No
what?
average idol fan in Japan is around early 20s.
Trust me, they're all Oji-san.
Okay.
50s.
Okay. 40s and 50s.
And that.
Okay.
And the thing is.
So. Yeah. Go on.
I mean, the thing is, this is kind of like the fan base that you start to get now in the West.
I think it's confusing or misleading because it's this way for male idols, where the male idols always have majority younger female fans, and the female idols have majority older male fans. And I'm squinting at that a little bit.
What I'm saying is I do not know what the idol culture is in Japan right now.
I've been getting involved in
what it was in the past. Okay, cool. I need to know your opinion. But I can.
And Mouse is 50 years old.
Of course.
69 boys.
Whoa, jeez. But I can definitely say that the people, older people who are into metal, specifically men, are definitely that, they're definitely into the demographic. I'm guessing even if you look at a band like Sabaton, who would Baby Metal have performed with, you're like, okay, it's gonna be white men in the 40s and 50s, into that kind of music.
I can attest to that. I was at the concert,
and so yeah, that's.
But what we were kind of getting at was that the fans in Japan, for female idol groups, they're like usually hovering around like 30s to like 50 years old or something like that. And I think that we're starting to see this kind of like age group also appearing as fans in the West as well now. And it could be a kind of like a intersection between like older male fans watching these types of idol groups in the West as well, and also because they are playing metal, which is basically like a something that they like in that age group as well.
Also, and I need to point out that it probably also is partly influenced by just the act of weebs getting older. Like a lot of people who started to like anime in like the 2000s, some of them still like anime in Japan, but they're like 40 now.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. As the scene itself is aging, so is the fan base. I think that's a really fair point.
It's a fair point, but also the thing is that a lot of the fans are like kind of like people who never been into Japanese culture before. I think that kind of fan base is also growing, and that's what I've seen at least.
I agree with the popularity of anime over the last 2 decades has like absolutely exploded, and like with that there comes with like other Japanese culture products that have like transitioned over, and like I would say baby metal is also one of them.
God damn it, baby!
Like, it's definitely not exclusively one or the other. I don't think it's probably gonna be a combination of those.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, Nexus, before we go on another side thing, which they're fine when we go on side things. It's great. It's conversation. It's interesting. But before that happens again, we have not really gotten your opinion on the whole scene. Like, is it here to stay? What do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I've kind of just been like sprinkling my opinions in throughout.
Yes, because I kind of saved you for last because I ruined it by saying that I'm not the biggest fan of baby metal either. I know you're not either. Like,
yeah.
But aside from that, or including that, like, what is your overall opinion on the state of the girls' metal band boom?
Yeah, so you said it before, I said it before, we already spoiled it. I'm personally not that much of a fan of like this entire subgenre for reasons I have outlined before. Don't love the gimmick. I'm generally just not a fan of ladies and especially not girls bands overall because of the idol culture. Just find it a bit icky for me personally. I think the gimmick has already gotten old as fuck. It was actually old on arrival. Didn't love it back when it was like the thing, oh, little girls playing metal, when it's in fact just an idol band in metal paint. However, I also recognize that. Yeah, listen, when you tried. When you were talking about the one that's like black metal, I googled them and I was so hyped, expecting some like actual corpse paint and shit, and they just look like 4 girls. Very disappointed now, but I also recognized. Yeah, my day is completely ruined actually.
No,
just my whole week.
Sounds like misogyny to me.
Yeah, dick.
Okay. Let's not go there.
We're already there.
As everybody knows, I hate women, and there's.
Okay, now it's on record. What the fuck?
Actually, my coworkers. No.
Where was I going? Yeah. I also recognize that I am possibly not the target demographic for this kind of act. And if they're like, it seems that the hype that they generated, that they are still kind of running with, is organic enough for me to have to admit that they probably do something right to capture this much of an audience, even if I don't get it and cannot identify what the fuck it is that is so interesting about them. But I feel like while the initial like hype you know how emo was really popular in like 2005, and then it kind of died. I feel like we're in the dying stage, where it's still kind of popular, but it's more of like people who are already into it are into it now, and it's not really like picking up all that many new people anymore the way they did in the 2010s. Now it's just in the annoying stage when every time you bring up Japanese metal to a normie, they're like, "Oh, baby metal," and you're like, "I'm going to kill myself." Uh,
But you know,
so
like
yeah, I think they're not going anywhere, but I feel like there's a slowing to the hype train.
but like Hanabi was just signed to a major record label.
Is it Sony?
Music.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But not. I think not. I mean, we're nerds about music, so we're gonna know about like, oh yeah, they got signed, but not everybody's gonna like know. There'll be if Hanabi go, oh
No.
this is our
Well,
first-"
it's not. No, it's not about that. It's more about like the fact that they got signed by major record label means that they're gonna get pushed even better and more like now.
Well, it also means
you-
that the boys in the suits have faith in the movement.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you would hope so that they would get.
Nah,
Oh, that's a different
just,
story.
just doing some guy a favor.
Just doing some guy's favor, okay?
Hey, I'd really appreciate it if you signed this band. Mean a lot to me. I've had a rough year. Yeah,
but yeah, it's a testament that it's still growing in some sense.
Like with all things, I would say that there's like a sharp increase of interest, and then it kind of like plateaus. Like it's all
like
the same at the
cruising
same
now.
time. Pardon?
It's
Cruise?
Yeah.
like cruising on the hype.
Yes, yeah, of course,
That's a really interesting way to put it. But I'm Sis, you finish. Then I'm gonna throw my little
and
thing
I think within that cruising zone, people will like kind of join here and there, but it won't probably it won't like have that sharp increase that it had before. And I think Baby Metal are also on that kind of like that kind of level at the moment, and it's just a matter of like, I know people are always looking, business people are always looking for the next big thing, whether it works or not. So it's now whether we can cultivate this environment, keep it going, keep it moving, and then hopefully, hopefully it will get something even bigger will come, maybe even. But yeah.
So what I was gonna say is we had like 3 years where nothing happened because nothing was allowed to happen, and I don't really, I don't know the timeline very well. We all know I'm bad with time, but like, wasn't Baby Metal like basically at their peak when stuff started going down, when the whole world shut down for coronavirus? Like, there was a big chunk of time where like nothing new was allowed to happen. And
what do you mean? They were quiet.
They were quiet.
Baby Metal was quiet.
Yeah, they were quiet for a while, and then like they came back too because they did their own hiatus thing as well. Like regardless of the state of the world. But again, I'm not saying that Baby Metal shapes everything, but music in general, at least our scene, especially because of how rough some of the measures were here in Japan, like a lot of stuff came to a standstill. I still remember when I came back, a lot of the shows I went to, the metal shows I went to, you weren't allowed to cheer because that's bad. You might spread the coronavirus that you're not carrying right now. Like, there was a big pause on everything, and now everything's resuming again. And it's like, everyone was left with all these puzzle pieces to try and put shit back together. And they were like, well, that was working towards the end there, so let's make it work again. Is it just like, it just feels like it's been a thing for a while, and it really hasn't? It's just that's what was the last thing we had, or what's the deal?
That it kind of seems like the train has been going on for way longer when you conveniently or kind of just inconveniently forget about the 3-year long period of fuck all happening. that kind of killed half the industry.
Half,
For
like
good.
it felt like more, man. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how many clubs in Japan ended up permanently shutting down, but I feel like it was quite a few.
there were some major ones,
Yeah.
that's for sure. There were
Yeah.
definitely some really major ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
remember some Visual-kei bands shutting down because, you couldn't perform or do anything. So
yeah, there were those that had the
Yeah.
means to do the streams, and then that's a whole other topic too. Those have basically disappeared. Like nobody wants to put the effort back into doing them anymore, which I think is really interesting because there was a lot of response from fans internationally, but now they're just like,
Fuck all of you again.
I don't know about fuck all of you, but there is there without a doubt a lot of the bands still try a little bit to get that international appeal. The Europe
I
tour
think
before you disband.
Did Grey do the streaming? Was it Bactic? One of those. It might be Bactic. Do the
Bucktick, yeah.
streaming of
Bucktick still do
shows.
it. Bucktick
Yeah, they
do
still
it.
do the streaming of shows on like Sundays, but they're like old shows. They just like kind of stream them recorded, I think.
Yeah, so like
It's something.
Yeah, that's something, right? Like not everyone's doing that, and there's, I'm sure the financials for it are crazy. I'm sure they are. I don't know what they are, but at the same time, how much were they getting back from it? I don't know that either. So I don't know if it's worth it, but I feel like every little bit helps as long as you can do it, but maybe they just can't.
help from the perspective of the fans or the artists?
Yeah, growing your fan base. I mean, everybody's, essentially putting all their music out there for free with Spotify anyway. Like, everybody's dying to be on Spotify because that's the place to be. And
I would like to use
yeah.
this as an appeal to Mana to finally put his fucking shit on Spotify already.
Why
Because
should
it's still
he?
not there.
Why should he?
Mazo, who's on Spotify?
We're on Spotify.
We're on Spotify.
Hey,
Oh my god.
check us out.
We sold our soul to the
Spotify.
Swedish. Okay.
To the Swedish.
The Swedish.
Swedish Europeans.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a crazy state, and we've been running a little long here. There's going to be a lot of chopping up for this one because we've had technical difficulties.
And before we go,
We are on
I
Spotify.
need to yeah, that too. Yes, we're on Spotify. But before we go, I have to mention Wagamama Rakia or
What?
Wagamama Rakia. I don't know exactly. I never said their name out loud.
Isn't that great?
But
How
have you
isolated
guys
you
heard
are.
about Def Nyan?
Defnian?
Nope.
Yes.
I don't
Yes,
know.
I know this name, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have never heard of it.
The guitarist from Pale Dusk.
Ah,
and, the
they're a big deal now,
singer, and the singer from Wagamama Rakia is in that duo group together. And Wagamama Rakia is basically, they're doing kind of like new metal. So they have like rap and also like kind of like metal in the background. That defines new metal. But then they also have this kind of like idol concept, but they are not girls in the sense that like the grown-ups, and they have a more kind of like not exactly rave aesthetic, but it's like towards that kind of like look. So it's a different concept compared to like the girlsy kind of like idols. I think that's
funny because
that.
they didn't always used to look like that. They actually did have that like kind of like idol look, but then at some point they transitioned to like what you're talking about, more casual and but much more within the metal like looking.
Oh, really? I actually started just getting into them when they started doing like this collaboration with a Crowd of Rebellion, like the band that's called that. That's when I got into them. And back then already they had this look that I was describing before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking up images of them. Like, yeah, they definitely were like that kind of band, but they've definitely changed up, which probably I would say for the better, because they can probably get
Stand out more.
other audiences, get more other audiences in. Then you don't have the what's it, the things that we have, the ideas we have of idol groups in of they can get away from that those preconceptions.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's I don't want to like reduce them, but like it reminds me a bit of like how idol groups look in like Korea. Maybe a bit more kind of like rapish.
Yeah. I get what you mean, actually. Yeah, more individuality. I would say.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just wanted to mention them like before we actually end this.
Yeah, okay, cool. I mean, to be fair, the last thing I was going to say before, giving us our sign-offs was the reason I chose this topic was more personal than normal, because for myself, as it's probably become obvious as I've talked throughout this, I have noticed that this is becoming more of a thing. And it's becoming more of a thing for myself as well. Like I said, I've been listening to a lot more Hanabiya. And as I also said, I've been getting into the idol scene. I made that mistake. And it's very interesting how it feels like there is a lot in common, specifically with the idols I'm listening to, with their fan bases that I found with metal fan bases, or at least with the metal bands I listen to. There's a huge intersection there. And it's very interesting to me. So that's why.
Tell us about that intersection. What is it? Is there something specific? Actually, is there anything specific that you realized? Or?
To put it in like the most basic way, dudes that go hard, like, the idol group I've gotten into.
But I'm like, yeah, now I get it.
So the group I've gotten into specifically recently, and here's the thing, like, I don't own a lot of their music. I mostly only listen to them when I go see them. Outside of seeing them, I'm not listening to them that often. But when I see them, I'm in it. Not as hardcore as the other dudes who go hard, and my friend who I've totally ruined financially, but I'm in it. I'm in it till death. You ride till death when you're at one of these idol events. It's specifically Plank Stars. Like, Plank is crazy. You'd have to see what happens at these shows. Like, there's crowd surfing. There's moshing, but it's not as hard as a metal mosh, but it gets shockingly wild. It is an experience, and it is something.
What was the name?
Plank Stars.
But it's PLANCK
Stars. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you know Plank?
No, I'm googling them now.
Oh, dude.
But I feel like maybe there's a video that a viral video that went around that maybe involves them.
Is it where a fan gets pulled onto stage?
Yes.
And I know him.
Yes. Oh. Okay.
So yes, I know him. I know him now. He is such a cool dude. And that's one of the things about, like, idols and their fan bases, because you were like, oh, early 20s or whatever. That guy's not early 20s. But it's also what, from my observation, has been a societal thing going on here where I am in Japan. Most of the guys I meet when I'm like at a bar or just hanging out somewhere, my Japanese is terrible. So like one of the first things I do is I go, oh, do you have any hobbies? Maybe we can find a topic that we both like that I can speak a little bit about, is my goal there. 9 out of 10 people are like, oh, no, I never even thought about that. It's like, what? What do you do? I work. What do you do after work? I go to sleep, and then I get ready for work again. There is a huge chunk of the population here, the male population, who live to work. They don't work to live, they live to work. That's all they do. That's all they think about. They do nothing but work. And on the other side, when I go to events for, different animation collaborations, cafes or whatever, it's majority women who are there. And they're in like the same age group as I am. All the guys are busy working and all the girls are, they work and then they also go and have fun as well. It's not the opposite of what I'm used to, but I'm more used to in the States. Like, you get like a 50-50 for everything you go to. But here, it's overwhelmingly women are the people who are in attendance, who have the free time, who are not devoted to their work. I'm not saying there is no woman out there who is not devoted to her work in the same way that there are guys out here that are. It's just, for the most part, this is what I see. And
interesting.
Like I said,
culture thing.
Yes. Like I said, dudes that go hard, it's because that is like a lot of them. It's their one outlet. That's the thing that they latched onto happened to be this idol group, and Nexus, like you mentioned earlier, there's the guys creeping on the little kids. That is some stuff that you see from time to time. With Plank in particular, it's not like that. I can say that from experience. But they play with other idol groups from time to time, and when you see their fans, they can be a little creepy sometimes. But but the guys that I roll with, I say that I've hung out with them very few times. My friend is more in it than I am, as I said. They're not about that. They're about, it's after work, time to cut loose.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not like stalking kind of.
Yeah. No, it's not like that at all. And like, that's why I feel like this scene is on the rise, because one, there's the girls who are now seemingly more able to devote the time to art. And then there's the guys who are like, well, here's my outlet. Like, that's what's available. That's what it looks like to me. And that's why I wanted to discuss it, to see if anyone else kind of had that perspective. But it seems like we all have kind of our own perspectives, which is great, because if we're all just sitting here like, yes, baby metal is not as good as people say baby metal is, then it's just boring. But since, we have all four different sides, it's interesting. And I'm sure there's plenty of other sides that we didn't touch on at all, but it's just very interesting to me. So that's why this topic was what it was.
But do you think, like, in the West, that people who are in their like 30s to like 50s and are into similar bands like baby metal and or idol groups, do you think like they use that as their outlet?
No, because they don't get to see them.
But they do travel overseas quite a lot.
They don't get to see them as often, I suppose.
Yeah, they don't get to see them as often. Yeah. Like, so that's an aside though. From, like NBT said, I feel like the bottom line is no, it is not their one outlet, because, like I said, they don't get to see them as often. Maybe when they do go, because that's the other thing, every metal show for a Japanese band I've been to in the States has had an amazing pit. Every metal show I've been to in Japan, I've been lucky if there is a pit. There is a culture that exists that glorifies the pit, and there are some bands, specifically like, bands that go hard and play at anti-knock, where there are pits, but a lot of really heavy bands don't get a pit. They just don't. It doesn't happen.
It seems so odd.
I don't know how much of it is because of, the remaining kind of corona stigma or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know how much of it is just the way things are. When I was in Saitama before coronavirus, I didn't go to as many shows. I didn't see like any pits other than when I went to Metal Square, and it was only for the heavy metal bands. All the visual bands didn't really get a pit. It just didn't happen. But also all the visual bands, not to throw shade, most of the fans are girls. Most of the heavy bands that were playing on the lower level their fans were salarymen. Like, they were very obviously salarymen, and they were awesome. But
an acquaintance to mine actually got from Japan, that is, actually got coronavirus last month or something like that. So it's still going on.
Oh, I mean, it's not going away. It itself is not going away, but the stigma around it is what I'm talking about. Like, the government here has already said, okay, it's the flu, treat it like the flu, but there's still people who are like, no.
A bit of a tangent again, but like, have you seen like any boom in like tourism?
We can have this discussion another time.
Okay.
But with that being said, as hard as we've been trying to end this now because of the technical difficulties that have suddenly just disappeared.
Don't jinx
You
it.
don't have to mention that because it's not going to affect the listeners that much.
It won't, other than the editing might sound really weird. Like, you'll be 1 second, like, you'll have this energy of like, listen, what I want to tell you is, and then it'll be like, when I think about it that way. Like, there will be tonal shifts. Trust me, there will be tonal shifts. But with that being said, thank you to everyone for joining us. I have been your host, Mazo, with co-host Nexus, co-host Sis. Nothing? Jesus, dude.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you didn't even hear that? Oh,
No,
okay.
there was
Well,
like a
okay.
sharp exhale, and that was about it.
That's it, yeah. That's it.
Oh, that's
That's
fine.
it.
Keep that.
That's the second time you've done like a kind of like silent thing. Last time you did that as well.
Well, starting to sense a trend here.
Time is not. It's just continuous, and I don't know what time is anymore. So, move on.
Welcome to my life. All right, and special guest NBT.
Snooze. I'm so tired.
All right, we'll
Same.
see what happens in the bath next time.
Atomic.